Hey everybody, happy Monday. Hope your weekend was good. Finally, the sun came out yesterday, so hopefully everybody got a chance to go out and enjoy that. Um, Today I'm going to be reading an article called Ancient China, Society and Class Divisions. And then you guys are going to be going over and answering in the Google form the Ancient China, Society and Class Divisions. So I'll flip back and forth between these as I normally do. All righty, here we go. Life changed much for the ancient Chinese over the years. Still, one thing stayed the same. They believed in the gods and their ancestors during almost every time period. Chinese civilization began about 5000 BC or about 7,000 years ago in the Yellow River Valley in northern China. One of the earliest villages was called Banpu. Scientists have evidence that women ruled and were in charge of religion in Banpu. Small villages like Banpu grew into larger communities and then into cities. The Xia dynasty was the first government in China that built large cities. A dynasty is a family of kings. The Xia family ruled China from 2070 to 1600 BC. After the Xia came the Shang dynasty, which lasted from 1600 to 1046 BC. Writing was developed then, and people wrote what life was like for people in ancient China. Social class, clothing, and adornments. Silk was likely invented nearly 5,000 years ago. The ancient Chinese believed it was discovered by the goddess Lei. She was the wife of the supreme god Shang-Ti. Lei was having tea when a cocoon fell into her cup. The cocoon unraveled into a single thread of silk, and she planted mulberry trees for silkworms to eat. The nobles and royalty were the only people who could wear silk. Most Chinese wore clothing made of hemp, which is a plant. Chinese society was divided into rulers, nobles, merchants, and peasants. For the most part, people stayed in the class they were born in. If one's father was a peasant, one would also be a peasant. The invention of writing separated people even more. The upper class could read and the peasants could not. Starting about 3,000 years ago, though, the Chinese government gave its citizens a very hard test called the imperial examinations. If they passed it, they could work for the government and then they would improve their lives and move up to a higher class. There are many differences among the classes. Men and women of all classes wore their hair long. They thought their hair came from their ancestors and it was disrespectful to cut it. Just like their hair, they thought the body was a gift from their ancestors and should be treated well. For this reason, most people looked down on those with tattoos. Both men and women of the upper classes grew their fingernails long to show that they did not have to work. They had servants to do everything for them, even feed them. They did not want to damage their nails. The period known as the 5 Dynasties and 10 Kingdoms lasted from 907 to 960 AD. During this time, the Chinese thought that beautiful women should have tiny feet. They wrapped girls' feet tightly in strips of cloth. It hurt very much and made it hard for them to do any kind of work. Foot binding became against the law in 1911. Many women said their tiny feet never really made them feel beautiful. No kidding. Education and healthcare. Only boys received an education in ancient China. Girls had to stay home and learn how to be housewives and mothers. Confucius was a teacher and philosopher who lived 2,500 years ago. He created the basics of Chinese education. Everyone was expected to know the 5 virtues of Confucius by heart. The most important, li, or manners, were ren, kindness, zhen, loyalty, yi, honesty, and zi, knowing the difference between right and wrong. In 105 BC, paper was invented. During the Tang Dynasty, which lasted from 618 AD to 907 AD, the Chinese discovered woodblock printing and were able to print many books at once. Before, they had hard copy books out by hand. Doctors were all men by the time of the Tang Dynasty. Women in the countryside were allowed to treat sick people with herbs, though. Most doctors were priests or studied religion. Okay, on to the questions. So I'll flip over to this doc. Remember, you guys can pause or rewind if you need to. Name, core, for when you submit. Question 1. Read the selection from the section Education and Healthcare. Doctors were all men by the time of the Tang Dynasty. Women in the countryside were allowed to treat sick people with herbs, though. Most doctors were priests or studied religion. Which of the following conclusions can be made from this paragraph? Doctors only treated people who were from the ruling and noble classes. During the Tang Dynasty, women were not allowed to be doctors. Men were the only ones who were intelligent enough to be doctors. Women learned about herbs by reading about them. Question 2. Read the section, "There are many differences among the classes." Which paragraph from the section that best explains why almost everyone in ancient China tried to protect their hair and bodies? Paragraph 6, paragraph 7, paragraph 8, paragraph 9. Question 3. Read the following paragraph from the section, Social Class, Clothing, and Adornments. Silk was likely invented nearly 5,000 years ago. The ancient Chinese believed it was discovered by the goddess Lei. She was the wife of the supreme god Shang-Ti. Lei was having tea when a cocoon fell into her cup. The cocoon unraveled into a single thread of silk, and she planted mulberry trees for silkworms to eat. The nobles and royalty were the only people who could wear silk. Most Chinese wore clothing made of hemp, which is a plant. Which answer choice best describes the structure of the paragraph? It provides background about ancient Chinese religion. It explains why only nobles and royalty wore silk. It uses an ancient legend to explain the importance of silk. It describes the earliest known process of making silk. And question 4. Read the paragraph from the section, "There are many differences among the classes." Both men and women of the upper classes grew their fingernails long to show that they did not have to work. They had servants to do everything for them, even feed them. They did not want to damage their nails. How does this paragraph most contribute to the main idea of the article? By describing how much the ancient Chinese cared about their appearance. By making the ancient Chinese seem like smart, advanced people. By showing a big difference between people of different social classes in ancient China. By showing that there was not enough work for everyone to have a job in ancient China. Okay, that's it. Hopefully we'll see more of you guys this afternoon at 2:30 for our team meeting.